Here's Alexander. Shabbat for three. Bingo!
Cody will get it for the win. Got it! He is hard to believe.
Here's Jordan.
The Magic, a 360 turn with the dribble. Magic down the middle. Gives underneath to Worthy. Slam dunk.
Third in the corner. Double fake.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Dime Dropper 2022 NBA Playoff Postgame Recaps. This time, our first conference finals recap for this year's playoffs. Before we get started, please make sure to subscribe on YouTube at Dime Dropper Podcast, Apple Podcasts, follow us on Spotify, and of course, to follow us on all social media platforms at Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Dime Dropper Pod. So tonight, your boy Solo Dolo, drop comments in the live chat. Super chats are turned on. If you want to drop $1 or a dime, good morning to wherever you may be if you're listening the day after. The Eastern Conference Finals are here. The Western Conference Finals are tomorrow. Let's get right into it. Miami and Boston. The first time these two teams are playing each other in the playoffs with fans since the famous 2012 series that LeBron James ended up taking that turning point in his career in Game 6. In Boston. But of course, if you remember recent history, in the bubble, they faced off against each other in a pretty competitive series. The Heat won in 6 games, and the Celtics are a much different team. The Heat have some changes as well. Let's get into tonight's game. Initial things, Kyle Lowry still out, but for the Celtics, very bad news today. Al Horford out. Health and safety protocol. They're saying that he could be out for both games in Miami, which is huge considering how great he's been this season in this playoffs. And then Marcus Smart, a different injury. He missed a game. I think it was game 2. He missed in the Bucks series with a quad injury, and now he was up with a knee sprain. It doesn't seem like he's going to be out the whole series. I think there's optimism that he's going to play in game 2, but oh boy, were those two missed, but not in the first half. As we start out talking about the game, the Celtics guys came out and threw the first punch. They were locking down. Their closeout speed was fantastic. Their help defense, as usual, fantastic. And without Al Horford, you saw an increased role for Rob Williams, the Time Lord. This was probably his best game, at least in the first half, at least. The best half he played in the playoffs thus far. And then you saw Derek White come in for Marcus Smart. Grant Williams stayed starting. And I thought the Celtics set the tone. You know, they led the first quarter 28-25, but they really were up like 8-10 points because Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown, you know, Marcus Smart's not there, so you know that those two are going to handle the ball even more. And they did a good job. Jalen Brown was aggressive. The Celtics were able to get in transition when they got stops. You know, they're going to switch everything, but they were actually putting Rob Williams in drop coverage instead of switching everything because didn't have Horford. And I don't think they wanted to go with a small guy on Bam on the offensive glass. And the Time Lord did such a great job when guys tried to come in the lane of blocking floaters and just affecting shots. And then help defense-wise, he had some spectacular blocks. He had this one on Victor Oladipo that he pinned off the glass. And he was also getting offensive rebounds in the other end. And, of course, his lob threat. So this is the thing about the Heat that I was so surprised with was that Miami – they usually switch everything. We've seen a lot of switch everything, except for with certain guys like Embiid in the last series. They didn't switch everyone on to Embiid. They treated Tatum with the same respect in the first half. They didn't switch Bam onto him. And I think that was mostly because I don't think they wanted certain guys on the Time Lord on the offensive glass. So both ways with the mismatch. I think they're pretty confident Bam can take anyone, but I think it's the offensive glass with Rob Williams that they were a little bit more afraid of. But when they were going in drop coverage, Jason Tatum was doing a great job of just taking what the defense gave him, throwing lobs, getting into the mid-range, hitting his three, making the right plays. And Jason Tatum, you know, he's improved so much. And I kind of wanted to rave. I was thinking I was going to come into this recap raving about how amazing Jason Tatum was, how he's the best player in the series by like looking like the clear-cut best player in the series, and how all the improvements that he's made to his game, which he has. And that day will still come where I give the rant on how much he's improved, because I feel like I have talked about little things, but not in the grand scheme of things, certain things he's improved on. Because I've gotten to watch him since year 1 living in Massachusetts. So I can tell you really specific things that maybe you won't get at other podcasts, at least not Celtic podcasts. But I can't say that tonight because it was a tale of two halves, but the first half was all good for the Celtics. Peyton Pritchard came in, did his thing. I thought Derek White could have made more shots, but overall, I thought he was in the first half making the right plays. And the guy that actually came and restored order for the Miami Heat, because the starting lineup wasn't really scoring like that, Tyler Hero. The sixth man of the year, Tyler Hero, he came in, got in the pick and roll, punished the Celtics in drop coverage, coming off those screens, pulling up, stepping into threes and twos, floaters, and made some great passes. He had this one pass up ahead where it was out, it went beyond the outstretched hand of Jalen Brown. And those passes, Dime Dropper fam, like, I'm into passing. That's why my channel's name is Dime Dropper. I know what kind of passes feel good. And that's a great pass when you know that the window's not very big. The defender's athletic. He can get the ball, but the pass is so good he just couldn't, even with his outstretched arm. And that's because he put the right amount of pace on that thing and height on it. And Jimmy Butler found a way to, I remember at halftime, I was thinking like, man, Jimmy's got like what, 7 points, 8 points? He had 14. And that's because he does such a great job of getting to the line. And that, again, talking about everybody needs to shoot threes. Jimmy Butler. Here's the thing about Jimmy Butler. It's not even that he's not a good three-point shooter. He doesn't really have a handle like that, like an ISO package. He doesn't really have many counters off the dribble when he's going downhill, and he really favors his right, if you haven't noticed this by now. But what he does do a great job of is when he jump stops, he has counters then. Well, he has the spin, but he also has the really good counters when he jump stops. He pump fakes so much, and he has good footwork off of that, and he'll turn and spin and can turn over the right shoulder, sometimes over the left shoulder as well. But really, the utilization of pump fakes that I've talked about so much over all my podcasts throughout these last 2 years, that is so underutilized in today's NBA, off the dribble. Off the catch, a lot of guys, pump fake and guys fly by. But off the dribble, a lot of guys don't go to that. Steph Curry is one of the guys that comes to mind that does. And you see that with the greats. I mean, Kobe, Jordan, all the greats, what's his name? Larry Bird is one of the main ones. Luka Doncic. Oh my God. He gets people out of, and Jokic, they get people out of their shoes. And even Giannis too. So the best players, really, they utilize them well. And Jimmy Butler gets so many guys in the air. And the best thing about him is he makes his free throws. 17 for 18 tonight from the line. That's efficient, baby. But after one close game, 28-25, second quarter, more of Boston. They were up 34-29, making threes, finding the open guys. And Miami was kind of struggling on defense. They were turning the ball over a little bit. And they were, Max Strus and Gabe Vincent, especially Max Strus in the first half, he couldn't buy a bucket. And Jalen Brown had this one jab step where he sent Gabe Vincent flying. And again, that goes back to stop wasting so much movement. Sharp moves, sell your moves. Don't need all this left and right nonsense over dribbling. But so going into the halftime, it was Jason Tatum doing his thing. He played so much of the game, especially the first half. I mean, Jason Tatum played 44 minutes, so he only sat out 4 minutes. But I thought, the Celtics were going to go get it. But the third quarter, oh my Lord, this was unlike any quarter I've seen this season from the Celtics, especially in the playoffs. And the Miami Heat, they turned up that fucking heat. Because on defense, they made a clear adjustment. We're switching everything. We're going to trust it. And Bam Adebayo made some spectacular plays guarding anyone you could think of. Blocking shots. He had this one chase down where I think it was Jalen Brown. He wedgied his ass. Pinned him and wedgied it. He was spectacular on defense. Jimmy Butler was playing as that. My God, I'm sorry. For the guys that are watching the live chat, my nose is itchy as hell. It's not even, but Jimmy Butler was in the passing lanes, but coming from the blind side like a safety and just picking off passes, specifically, mainly being thrown by Jason Tatum, who had a real tale of two halves, turning the ball over like Kevin Durant in game one against the Celtics in this year's playoffs, like 5 times in a quarter, careless passes and pick and roll, throwing it just as if he's not even looking at the weak side of what could potentially be behind the guy he's passing to. Jimmy Butler got 3 steals, 2 on Jason Tatum at least, and picking up his passes in the third quarter, but 3 of them at least in the quarter, just picking him off, and they made him pay every time. And another thing that started getting bad for the Celtics, besides the fact that they could not make a 3, they were like 0 for 10 before they made 2 threes at the end of in the second half. But Gabe Vincent and Max Strus started hitting threes. And Max Strus hit a couple open shots because the momentum was being pushed. But Gabe Vincent hit a three when Jason Tatum was switched on to him to beat the shot clock from like 28, 30 feet. And that was huge because then he came back and hit I think he had another one not too far later, but he was shooting with confidence. He was 5 for 10 and 3 for 7 from deep, and Max Strus ended up 4 for 9 and 3 for 8 from deep. So to get double figures from those guys, 17 for Vincent and 11 from Strus is big time for Miami. But Jimmy Butler, he was just putting on a show, getting into the mid-range, and the Celtics just seemed rattled. And Jalen Brown, he was aggressive still. He was getting to the line. He shot 17 times tonight, and he played 43 minutes. The problem with Jalen, free throws, 6 for 10, and he missed 3 of them, I believe, in at least 2, but 3 of them, if I'm not mistaken, in the third quarter. The Celtics scored 14 points in the third and allowed 39, a lot of them because of turnovers. They committed 16 as a team, 7 from Tatum. And because they were so dependent on the ball handling and playmaking of the Jays tonight without Smart, and Derek White, he had a tough game. I thought that the Miami Heat knew, especially Jimmy Butler knew, that Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown weren't going to be favorable matchups for him to go one-on-one. So he was looking for the Pritchards of the world and for the Derek Whites. And he was going right into the chest of Derek White, getting him in, he had 4 personal fouls tonight, Derek. And a couple of those were Jimmy Butler just putting pressure on him, going to the basket. Grant Williams also in foul trouble tonight. 5 of them, 7 points, 2 for 5. He played 35 minutes, was pretty damn quiet. The Miami Heat's defense, just the way they turned it up in the second half, such a well-coached team, but they're just a great team, chemistry-wise. And Jimmy Butler, he's really gotten back to the way he played in the bubble, but he's added the even better off-ball movement, which has really gotten him to score more points in this playoffs. Cutting to the basket, getting in the post, getting solid post position on certain mismatches, just being a threat to catch lobs as well, and then getting out in transition, and also having his defense lead to offense. I mean, he's just on a mission. Can he prove everyone, including me, wrong that he may be able to be the best player on a championship team if he's got a good enough supporting cast, which maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I think fingers are going to be pointed at Jimmy first if they don't win a championship, depending on the performance. But let's not think about the championship. We got a great Eastern Conference Final Series on our hands, and the Miami Heat, so there's not much to say about the fourth quarter, guys. It was really ugly, mucky. I think the Heat were in the bonus within the first 5 minutes, and it was just foul shot after foul shot, trading baskets, and ultimately Jimmy Butler made some solid plays at the end of the game. I want to say the end of the game, but last 5 minutes to kind of ensure that the Celtics couldn't get back in the game. The Miami Heat ride the third quarter, 2-way victory, 118-107 in game 1. They take a 1-0 lead, just like they did in 2020. And the Celtics, they didn't play well, but I don't think this is the game that they blew, even though they were up 13 points at one time. 13 points in the first half in today's NBA is absolutely nothing. So I think that the next game will be their chance to take one. And I think that they're going to need Al Horford and Marcus Smart. I know Kyle Lowry was out. I'm well aware, Heat fans. But, I'm going to try to be neutral and try to be fair. And I think 2 starters versus 1 starter is a big deal. And I think that Kyle Lowry, I think the Heat have gotten more used to playing with him in these playoffs than the Celtics have gotten used to playing without Smart and Horford. But that shit happens, right? And the Boston Celtics now need to win a game, maybe without Al Horford in Miami. But we'll see what happens. Let's read the stat lines for tonight's game. For the Boston Celtics, they shot 45% from the field, so not bad. And from 3, 32%. They didn't shoot too many, 11 for 34. Just didn't hit because momentum shifted. And that's because they gave the ball away. And Ime Udoka was very, very, he didn't pull back any punches on his stars. He said it was Jalen and Jason Tatum that kind of blew it. Not blew it, but, started the avalanche that led to, or started making mistakes. He's holding his stars accountable, and that's what you want to see because, as I always say, the freaking playoffs and basketball is a stars game. You got to look at the top first before you start blaming all the role guys on vet minimums that in 20 years, we're not going to be talking about, Derek White, he really didn't play well in game 1 in the conference finals. You're going to be remembering that Jason Tatum turned the fucking ball over a lot. That's just the truth. If the Celtics lose, of course. But anyway, I still got Celtics in 6. I stand by my pick. Grant Williams, 7 points, 2 for 5 shooting. As I said, not really involved on offense the same way he was in game 7. I mean, they did not let him shoot like the Bucks. That's for sure. Derek White, 3 points, 1 for 4. Didn't have a good second half. Didn't have a great game overall, but he still makes the right plays. So I still think overall, even though he turned the ball over 2 times and got blown by a good amount by solid offensive players, I think he'll still be very useful in the series as he's been all playoffs and all season for them. 3 points, 4 assists, 1 for 4 shooting for Derek. Only got 1 3 off and missed it. The Time Lord, 18 points, 9 rebounds. My criticism of the Time Lord is in the second half. He got stripped twice by Gabe Vincent for keeping the ball down low when he received it. And also just a little bit of, sometimes just good defensive plays, but got to be a little bit firmer with the ball. Keep it up high best you can. But he had a solid game overall. 18 points, 9 rebounds, 2 blocks, 6 for 8 shooting in 28 minutes. And then Jalen Brown, his stat line looks good, but he didn't play very well to me. 24 points, 10 rebounds, 7 for 17 shooting, 4 for 8 from deep, 6 for 10 from the line. Needs to shoot at least 80% in every game he plays, especially in the playoffs. That's just not good enough. And then Jason Tatum, and also just lapses in concentration on defense at times. Jimmy Butler, I remember, got an offensive rebound with Jalen Brown just ball watching. And that's another thing about Jimmy Butler. He's finding ways to get those Havlicek points. You know what I'm saying? In the half-court set, just being in the right place at the right time, being available, moving without the ball. Not everything has to be on ball. And that's why I think Jordan's the best scorer ever, because I've noticed when I watch more games of him, even though I'm watching modern games all the time right now, and I'm on a timeline. So I'm not really watching Jordan like that. But anytime I see extended clips and stuff or highlights, when people post on Twitter or the game that's just clips of games that are on, you could just tell how his variety of how he scores is incredible because he moves without the ball so much in the half court. And Jimmy Butler has found ways to do such a thing as well, especially in these playoffs. He's really showcasing it. But Jason Tatum, 29 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 steals, but 7 turnovers. So more turnovers than assists. No. He was great in the first half, but third quarter just not good. It ruined it. Sometimes if you tank a quarter that badly against great teams in the playoffs or very good teams like Miami, that could be enough. Even in today's game where comebacks are easier. 10 for 21 for Jason, 29, 8, 6, 4 steals, block and 7 turnovers. Peyton Pritchard, 18 points off the bench. He actually was pretty good. 6 for 16 and 4 for 11 from deep. Daniel Tice, I also thought wasn't bad, at least on offense. Actually, no, he wasn't bad in my opinion, even though his plus minus says otherwise. 8 points, 4 for 5 from the field. I remember there was one defensive play against Hero. He moved his feet so well. Miami, 49% from the field for them. I thought they had some, just constantly setting screens for guys. And Gabe Vincent punished guys that went underneath screens. He was 5 for 10 from the field, 3 for 7 from deep, 4 for 4 from the line. So great all the way around, shooting the ball. 17 points for him. The Heat shot 10 for 30 from 3, so not even great, but 30 for 34 from the line. And a lot of that was who. PJ Tucker, he was, trying to avoid foul trouble as usual, still had 4 fouls, didn't really get many shots off, 5 points, 2 of 5. But 31 minutes and he plays defense. You already know how it is with PJ. Max Strus, 11 points, 4 boards, 4 of 9 shooting, turned up in the second half, 3 for 8 from the 3-point line. And then Bam Adebayo, his stat line won't do it justice. He only had 10 points and 4 boards. I still think there's so much you can do in terms of scoring, mid-range. Like he has moves where I remember in the first quarter, he had a nice turnaround over the right shoulder, pump fake, pivot, turn over the right shoulder. And Mark Jackson's talking about that's a skilled big man. That's your center doing that. So he only does it one time in the game? Like, come on. What's the point if you only show it in glimpses? Can you be a go-to scorer? Because I think that's what the Heat are going to need to win a championship. I really think so. I don't think we'll see what happens, but Bam Adebayo, 10 points, 4 boards, but his defense was phenomenal, especially second half when he was switching on to guys, 4 blocks. And then Jimmy G buckets, the G stands for gets, 41 points, 9 boards, 5 assists, 4 steals, and 3 blocks. Plus 25, plus minus, the highest of anyone in the game. He was just phenomenal. The best player in this game tonight, 12 for 19 shooting and only shot 2 threes and missed them both. So when we talk about threes and he doesn't even have a handle like that, and the spacing that he has compared to other eras. So when people talk about these stupid arguments, well, Michael Jordan's not a great wasn't a great 3-point shooter. Who gives a fuck? You know how advanced that fool is skill-wise? We're going to break it down when we get to the 90s. When I get to the 90s, in the 80s, we're going to break down his skill that you guys don't see, casuals. But anyway, 17 for 18 foul shots from the line for Jimmy Butler, 41 points. And then Tyler Hero, 18 points and 8 boards, 3 assists off the bench, 7 for 15 shooting, and 1 of 5 from deep. And Victor Oladipo, I thought he was okay, but he had this one play that was very standout, and it was big momentum play. Jason Tatum, in the midst of all his turnovers, throwing the ball away to Jimmy Butler, was just bringing it up the floor, and Victor Oladipo just cookied him on the turn. It was a great steal, and it was a sign of, to me, Tatum a little bit fatigued at the end of that third quarter. Just he had played so much, he turned the ball over, momentum was against him, and he got careless. But the Heat win it take the 1-0 lead. We'll see what happens in game 2. It was an exciting game. But before I go to the live subscribers waiting patiently in the chat, of course, this is awesome that it's a shorter live tonight, or shorter recap, I should say, because it's only one game. So from now on, it's only going to be one game for the rest of the season. Thank God. I'm getting burned out, guys, even though it's been fun. But I want to address something real quick. Patrick Beverley, one of my former guys, went on First Take to bash Chris Paul into the ground. Now, I thought it was pretty funny, and I thought that it was cool to see Chris Paul get slandered like other people have gotten slandered, because whenever I guess since he left the Clippers, he's free of any slander. He's just point guard, everything. Top 5 point guard of all time. Consensus to the way they make it seem. And I like seeing somebody go against that. I like seeing someone call out that he's not as good of a defender as he used to be, and the Mavericks showed that. But I do think it's petty. But here's the thing about Pat Bev. He is petty. I know who he is. You know what I'm saying? Not know him personally, but I know who he is in terms of his personality. He was on my team. He wears his heart on his sleeve. Patrick Beverley going on First Take to basically bash a player that he doesn't mess with. So it's very petty. It's unprofessional. I'm here for it, but it's unprofessional and a little fucked in my eyes. But it is what it is, right? And, with JJ Baby Dick over there caping for Chris Paul in the media because he gave him the best years of his career, hitting him in his perfect shot pocket coming off screens of that same play. We need somebody to counterbalance that. Although Patrick Beverley's doing the same thing for James Harden, talking about he should get a max. He should absolutely not get a max. He is cooked. But he still is a good player. But, yeah, you already know how I feel about Plumber Jim. We only talk about players that are in the playoffs right now. But anyway, guys, thanks so much for joining me. Super chats are turned on if you want to drop $1 or a dime. Leave a review if you'd like. Let me know what you think of the episodes. What do you like? The partner dynamic better? The solo dynamic? You like them both? You like the mix? Let me know what you think. Let me know your prediction for the series as well. Let me know if you think Jimmy Butler is better than Jason Tatum, or is he better than Devin Booker? That's a good – people are talking about Booker. I think Tatum is better than Booker. But let me know about Jimmy. Where does he fall between those three? I'd really interested to hear your guys' opinions. Peace out, y'all. 23 minutes. Almost on the nose. The great Michael Jordan is smiling somewhere, smoking a cigar. Peace out. And we'll go to the live subscribers waiting patiently in the chat. Yo, 21 of you guys. Hey, the attendance has been so much better lately in the playoffs, guys. I appreciate the love in the playoffs. You're trying to hear my shit. I'm here first. Kyle's take says, what's up, Dime? You got to add your take on ESPN. I already got you on that. I don't see what Pat Bev said. Point fraud. Is Smart coming back game 2? Dude, I don't know. I know as much as you. I already answered this. How's it going? What's up, ZZ Visions? I know you're happy. The heat is on. On the street. Bro, I'm excited about I'm rooting for the Heat, because the thing about the Celtics is I love my boys, but I don't like seeing Boston sports on top because they like to talk shit about LA. And LA reigns supreme, even though in recent history, Boston is better in sports, but they need a little drought. Although I really like the Celtics team. They're very likable. How's it going? All I have to say is I don't know how I'm ever going to watch regular season Jimmy Butler again. I feel you on that. Raid Chowdhury says, are you taking Jimmy over Booker? Let me wait till the end of the series for that. But he's more experienced. You can see what I'm saying? That mentality shit. I mean, he's obviously a dog. I still think jury's out on if Devin Booker's a dog. Jimmy Butler's a certified dog. Devin Booker has way more offensive talent. It's not even close. Jimmy Butler's a definitely better defender. Playmaking, about even. I kind of prefer, I think it's about even. It's about even in terms of passing in the pick and roll. Passing overall, maybe Jimmy's a little better. Pretty even there, I think. It's a tough one. I think the experience, though, is where Jimmy may have the edge. That shit matters. Michael George says, from what I've seen you tweet, I just want to see how you feel about this. Do you think it's going to be a cakewalk for the Clippers? Get the fuck out of here. No title's a cakewalk, especially not for the Clippers. It's not even going to be a cakewalk getting out of the freaking second round. It's not going to be a cakewalk getting out of the first round. Dude, I've never had a series besides the Denver series, the original Denver series with Elton Brand and them, that I thought that the Clippers gave me a stress-free first round. Every series is 7 games or a battle, like every series. You know what I'm saying? Like Memphis, 2 years in a row was a fucking battle. Golden State and San Antonio took the life out of me. Portland, we got hurt. Utah was a 7-game series. We lost to Golden State in the first round in 2019. Luka gave us trouble both years, so it's never easy. I don't take it for granted. I just think that it's championship or bust kind of deal. Terminator, what's up, my boy? He says, hey, Warriors are in deep trouble if they go against the Celtics in the finals or the Celtics survive this Eastern Conference Finals. You're right. But, hey, if the Heat win the series, why aren't they in trouble against them? I think the Warriors, they got problems. They're going to have some trouble in this series more than any other, I think. Heat are undefeated at home in the playoffs, says Kyle's Takes. I really can't bet against Miami at home. I still think they take game 2. Kyle's Takes says JT was making predictable passes too. Facts. I should have mentioned that it was telegraphed, but maybe that was implied. There was one possession where JT got an offensive rebound, dribbled a bit, then passed the Time Lord, and Jimmy just poked it away. Has Luka surpassed Steph as a player? Let's wait till this series. This will tell us all, but I'm very close to saying yes. Michael George says, what do you mean at Raid? Kyle's Takes says, Terminator says, as an individual player, yes. Wow. Michael George says, no, he's going with the experience. All-time, Steph's better, though. Current Luka's more dominant, says Terminator 92. Okay. I mean, Luka definitely has to be more dominant on a nightly basis because he has more of doesn't have as much help. So that can make his numbers look better and he can, usage rate and all that is higher. But I still may have to go Luka depending on this series. Michael George says, depends, though. Steph dominates in a completely different way than Luka does. That is true as well. Terminator 92 says, on-ball Luka's better, off-ball Steph's better. Well, that's a given, I'd assume. Right, says, for real, Darian. People also act like MJ wouldn't have developed his 3-ball a lot more in today's league. Brooke Lopez, of all people, turned into a shooter, and people act like MJ wouldn't be able to adjust. Yeah, it's nonsense. You got Jonas Valanciunas shooting threes, bro. If Jonas Valanciunas could shoot threes, oh, my God. Then Karl Malone and all those guys can definitely shoot threes. Michael George says, okay, I agree. Kyle's Take says, Terminator, that's a good way to put it. Kyle's Take says, if Luka and Steph plays 1v1, as much as I love Steph, I think Luka wins that one. But, yeah, basketball's 5v5. I agree. Michael George says, Jimmy's better than Booker, and it's closed case. Wow, really? Are we forgetting that Jimmy Butler got swept last year, embarrassingly, and Devin Booker went to the finals? Can't say it's case. It's that closed case? What if they lose the series, though, Michael? Greg Moharo says, can you imagine if Paul George got calls like that? I know. I think Paul George needs to be a little bit better at selling it, but at the same time, it's like, you're right. Like, Jimmy can't be getting that many more calls than Paul, bro. Paul gets hacked. That shit pisses me off. Turner says Xavier McDaniel over Harden. I need to watch Xavier McDaniel play, but accomplishments-wise, no way. But you know me. I don't mess with Plummer. And I fuck with the X-Man. Paul George over Booker. Yeah, I'll say that. Kyle's Take says, honestly, feel like you're the best person when it comes to talking about Cliff. I think I am. I think I'm also, well, I may be a little harsh on LeBron, but I think I know LeBron as well as anybody, man. Like, I really do. Like, I'll put myself against anyone. But, yeah, Chris Paul, I know him even better. Actually, I don't know. I know LeBron's game better than anybody to me, of any player I've ever watched. But Chris Paul's next, right there. Ja'Cory Marshall says, once Paul got to the finals and everybody started sucking him off. No, I think it was when he got to Houston because they saw how important he was when they lost to the Rockets. But actually, you know what it was? OKC. And after OKC and then last year regular season in Phoenix, everybody went crazy with him. Plumber Jam, yes. Raid Chowdhury says, if I was a casual fan, I would think that Pat Bev's a superstar the way he talks. Raid Chowdhury says, would you say Jimmy and Booker are the two clear-cut shooting guards in the league? Yeah, but Jimmy starts at the 3. Max Strus plays the 2, right? He's like just a wing, if you know me. It's so hard. Booker's a clear shooting guard, though. I'd say Booker's the best shooting guard in the league. Daniel Clifford says, hey, Dom, you made a good point about how the slander of CP3 and the praise from everyone increased after he left the Clippers. Pat Bev is a good example, too. Yeah, I know. It's really annoying. But people don't like Pat Bev still. Kyle's Takes says, crazy idea for Dime Dropper, but if ever the day comes and CP3 retires, you make some documentary or something objective from a Clipper fan. Dude, we'll do a lot of content on everybody. What's a real dream is crazy idea when the CP3 retires. Hopefully he can come talk to us on Dime Dropper. That would be fun. I would love to hear from Chris and have a conversation with him and meet him. It's one of my dreams, but right? Did Ja outplay Steph in the 3 games that he played before getting hurt? You could argue it. Because games 2 and 3 was really good. Wait, no, game 3 they got waxed, didn't they? But Ja played well. I don't know. Kyle's Take says, you agree, right, what Pat Bev said about the media not giving the same energy for CP3? I do agree with that, yes. Right, Chowdhury says Paul George over Booker. Paul George or Jimmy Butler? That's so hard. I've been going back. So it's like 2020, I would say Jimmy Butler. 2021, I would say Paul. Right now, Paul's not playing. I have to give Jimmy the benefit of the doubt. He's in right now. But next year, we'll see. Ty Baller says, nah, you good. I forgot he existed for a second, too. He's been out for a while. That push for the plan. Daniel Clifford says, MJ wouldn't be silly enough to adjust to the amount of three players. His shot IQ is too great. That's a good point. What is he? That's what I'm saying, right? If he's so good at mid-ranges, why settle? That's my point. And he's so good going to the basket. Michael George says, if Luka wins the title, is it more impressive than Dirk's? Yes, because Dirk had Jason Kidd. I don't care how old he was. He was fantastic guarding Kobe and LeBron. He had Sean Marion. Like, these were former All-Stars. Tyson Chandler was a real, like, Tyson Chandler's like Dwight Powell or like Maxi Kleber was good, but like Tyson Chandler is another level. I think that Mavericks team was definitely better than this one, without a doubt for me. And Jason Terry and Spencer Dinwiddie, there's some parallels, but Terry's better. His pull-up was just nasty. And his contested shot making was just, he's a great player. But no, it would be more impressive, especially because it's just individualistic basketball. It's that heliocentric ball dominance LeBron ball with no stars. Like, right? Just no Michael George. Dirk went through Kobe, KD, LeBron, and Wade. I mean, he had more help, way more help though to me than Luka. I just think, dude, Chris Paul and Devin Booker weren't a game. Like they just made him look terrible, but that's not a game. The first round is a joke. I understand. But I don't think Devin Booker, Chris Paul is an all-timer. He's still a top 10 point guard of all time to me. And Devin Booker is a top 10 player in the NBA. I don't care how badly he fucked up. He's definitely a top 10. Without Kawhi in there, he's definitely a top 10 player in the NBA. Kyle's take says, I definitely agree on your point about CP3 in the playoffs. Guys like JJ says CP3 is a better playoff player. The numbers prove it. It ain't just about the numbers. Here's the thing about Chris Paul. And that's what I always say about the playoffs. My boy Ricky G says 3 seasons in 1. He says it differently than me, though. I say, because I'm a Clipper fan, so I have that second round shit, but regular season basketball, playoff basketball, and then the final 8. The second round, when you start playing 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3, those are the elite teams, all of which can usually be contenders for championships. Great teams in history have gotten knocked down in the second round. Example A, last year. That wasn't necessarily a great team, the Nets, but they had a lot of talent, and they could have easily won the championship in a weird season like last year's. And you have the Bucks this year. Easily could have been in the championship discussion. As crazy as this sounds, the 2011 Lakers, had they won game 1 of that series, a lot would have been different. Like a lot. And Pau Gasol, oh my God. Kobe still, like, he played so well in that game, but he missed a chance to tie the game. Can't, not hold him accountable there. I know Kobe probably was mad at himself for that. But Pau Gasol, Ron Artest were so bad. But I still think that Laker team still could have been really dangerous. And then you got a team like the 2011 Celtics. Like, that team's in a contention for the championship and lost. 2010 Cavs. Like, that shit happens. Second round is big time. It's a different game in the second round. 2006 San Antonio Spurs, big one that comes to mind. But Chris Paul, he falters in that final 8 because the quality changes. Because this is the thing. Chris Paul, a lot of times he can be the best player in the first round of a series. But in the second round, you're playing against the KDs. You're playing against the Stephs. You're playing against James Harden in his primes. You're playing against the Kobe Bryants, the Dirk Nowitzkis, the Luka Doncic's. It's a different Giannis. This is a different game. So Chris Paul, and that's why Clyde Frazier and them, Isaiah, you got to look relative to era. If he's shining against the best of his era, Chris Paul is great, but he's in a second tier to me. He was at one point, you could argue, like 2015, I think he was a top 5 player in the NBA. 2016, top 5, top 6 player in the NBA, for sure to me. Right in there. But even then, there was still a difference between him, KD, and him, Steph, and him, LeBron. There was. But anyway, I love Chris Paul, though. It's just like he's like a John Stockton. Like, he's not Clyde Frazier. He's not Isaiah. He's not Oscar. And he's not Jerry. Jerry West's averaging 46 points in the playoff series to win, in a win. You know what I'm saying? And he led the league in scoring, and he led the league in assists at one point. Not at the same time. Oscar did at the same time, though. And he's just 6'5", man. He can get a shot off on anyone. Chris couldn't get a shot off. It's just like, let's be respectful to the game's history, Ja'Cory Marshall says, hope the Suns blow it up and go back to being trash. Their fans. Oh, my God. Kyle's take says, definitely this Luka run this year gives a bit of Dirk vibes. But Darian, to me, Dirk competition is a lot harder. I agree with you, man. I'm always going to say that. You had to go through a gauntlet back then. You don't have to go through that same gauntlet now. But to some extent, the Warriors, you could argue, could be like that Lakers team. Like, there's still Steph, Clay, and Draymond. This is the experienced guard you're going to have to get through, and he has a tall task ahead of him right now. I agree that Dirk's competition was harder. I just think that his team was better. Terminator 92 says might happen since Sarver might be cheap and let Ayton walk. Yeah, I know that's a big topic of discussion. Remind me to talk about that before the season ends. Right, Chatter says Kobe, LeBron, and Wade were the 3 best players in 2011, and KD was top 5. And you know who the 4th guy was? Dirk. Don't forget, if he plays well in the playoffs, you can't rule him out. Dirk, he was just incredible. Kyle's take says, I don't know if you answered this in your recap, but is the Suns window closed? I kind of feel like it is, or open just an inch. I think that this Suns team with Chris Paul and Devin Booker's window to win a championship is closed. That doesn't mean they shouldn't try again, but they're just not going to do it. It's not going to happen. They just don't have what it takes. If they didn't win this year and last year, they're not going to win it. I think Devin Booker could still lead a team to a championship potentially in the future, but he's going to have to improve a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Especially a lot of it mental. And yeah, other than that, Ayton is, they got to pay him what he wants, but they may not, especially that game 7 performance didn't help his case. But still, again, you know what I said about Ayton. They need to empower him. He says, I definitely see your argument though, Raid. By the way, the Suns can still be a conference finals caliber team next year, but like they're not going to the finals. They can't beat, if we're healthy, bro, we're going to beat the brakes off of them because we can switch everything. And I noticed Mikal Bridges' weakness on defense. He's not good in the post because he doesn't have to go up against post players. But Luka was exposing him. Kawhi Leonard, he's going to show him what's good. Crowder actually does a better job on Kawhi. But nobody can guard Paul George. Or Kawhi. Did you see Mark Cuban and Lil Wayne beef on Twitter? Yes, I did. That was hilarious. Yeah, I agree that his CP3's window was closed and he couldn't do it. Yes. Kyle's takes it, since the CP3 thing is going on, who's your top 5 point guard of all time? I don't know if many people keep asking you. First of all, don't apologize for asking me questions because you support me every night. So don't ever apologize. My top 5 point guards is probably not going to be changed for a long time. My top 6, really. It's the order is just what needs to happen. By the way, hold on, actually. So Magic is number 1. That's not changing. The 2nd and 3rd and 4th and 5th are between Isaiah Thomas, Steph Curry, Jerry West, and Oscar. But those are the 5 best point guards. If you want to take Steph Curry out and Jerry West out because you think that they're more combo guards, that's fine. But to me, if you have, this is the one thing I have a problem with. If you have Steph, you have to have Jerry as a point guard to me because Steph is more off ball than Jerry. Jerry played the point guard role even though the thing is, the difference is the position wasn't differentiated back then. And Steph does technically start at the point guard, but a lot of possessions don't start with Steph. He's off the ball. Jerry West brings up the ball a lot. If anything, he was just more off ball with Walt Hazard. That's why he was averaging 40 freaking points in the conference finals, division final. But if you watch the games, man, Jerry brings the ball up a lot. And my definition of a point guard is somebody who controls pace and starts possessions for the team more often than not. Almost all the time, and is usually a guard size, like 6'5" or under. If you're a tall guard, you really got to be carrying, like LeBron is a point forward to me. He still doesn't start at the point guard though all the time, but Magic is number 1. I consider Steph and Jerry because Steph still controls pace in a different way to me, and he can control pace when he's on the ball. And Jerry West still brings it up and kind of controls the offense for the Lakers. So even though Elgin played some point forward as well too, there's many ball handlers back in the 60s with the Lakers, but I still consider Jerry a score first point guard. I just don't think that was a thing back then. Point guard wasn't even a thing. That name wasn't a thing. It was just a guard. But that's my 5. Like Chris Paul's just not as good of a player as those guys. Like, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter what he does. And it's showing it. His resume speaks for itself. In terms of longevity, he's going to be great, but he's not as good of a player as those guys. And then Clyde Frazier is my 6th. And then after that, we can go from there. Jason Kidd, Stockton, Chris Paul, Nash, Gary Payton, Dennis Johnson, they can all compete with Tony Parker. They can all compete with one another. But those 6 is solidified. I think after all the footage, I'm still going to come with that conclusion. Oscar Robertson and Jerry West are very – I've watched them now it's been 2 years. I've been studying their careers, 11 seasons worth that I've seen them. And it's just they're incredible players, man. And year in, year out, top of their game, especially Jerry West. His longevity is unbelievable at his age in that era, what he's able to do and how far he's able to push himself after each tough loss. And especially on both ends of the floor that Jerry West does it. He's so incredible to me. But anyway, there you go. Kyle Stakes says, yeah, that's a nice point. Book and DA are still young. They got many years left to chances. Ty Weller says, I get what you're saying. There's no team where you have Chris Paul as the clear-cut best player that wins it all unless you build up a crazy supporting cast. What supporting cast, though? You feel me? Like, what supporting cast could you put around him as the best player and they win the championship? I just don't think one exists because everybody has to be worse than him. Like what? Chris Paul and CJ McCollum and 3-and-D guys all the way around? I don't think that's winning championships, man. It's just you have to. You're playing. The thing is, if you have a series where the other team has the two best players, you're almost never going to win. Almost never. You have to have a lot of different. You have to have multiple stars of other sorts. But Michael George says Suns suck, and yes, campaign was really bad in these playoffs. Total 180 from last year. You're right. That was a tough playoffs for him. After he was talking shit in the regular season too. Ray Chowdhury says, "Man, if the Warriors win it all, we're going to be seeing a lot of takes about Curry being the best point guard ever from his fanboys." Yeah, that's nonsense. But Curry, here's what I'll say though: if Curry wins the championship and wins Finals MVP, I can have him second comfortably because he changed the game, and he's off. And it just eye test wise, he's just one of the best I've ever seen. Hayden Sigurdsson says, "Who do you think the Warriors start on Luka and Brunson? How do you think they guard the pick and roll? Switch everything." I think they start out switching everything and then just double Luka when Steph's on him and Poole's on him. I think that's what they're going to do. Give up the open shot, just force the ball out of his hands. They're going to put Andrew Wiggins on Luka to start, and then on Brunson, they're going to put Klay Thompson, I think. Terminator says he still won't be the best point guard ever. Magic still has more accolades, rings, regular season, and finals MVPs, and he's just better at basketball to me more than anything. Edwin Alvarez says, think I've mentioned this before, but always thought you were Mexican. You said you're Persian, right? There's a big Persian community I don't know about in LA. He's a huge Persian community in LA. What? Go to Westwood. But yeah, I'm not Latino, but I'm Latino at heart. Right? Says Darren, I think Luka's on his way. I speak Spanish too. Luka's on his way to becoming a top 5 point guard ever. I know it's early, but his talent and skills incredible. I could see him surpassing Steph, Jerry, Oscar, Isaiah. He's only in year 5. I think or 4. Let's just slow it down. I think so too, maybe, but let's just slow it down for now. I love your top 5 point guard list, says Kyle's Takes. I want to see Thomas. I don't have much knowledge of him. I need to do some research. Need to appreciate him more. Feel you on that. Kyle's Takes says Wiggs on Luka, and of course prayers. Right? It says, would you consider Steph being a top 10 player if he wins Finals MVP? And if you do, who would you take out of your top 10? It's very tough. Is he better than Hakeem? I feel like that's the only one. Or Wilt Chamberlain? I just don't know about that, man. I just don't know. But he's easily solidified to me if he gets that as the 12th, number 12 to me. Nah, yeah, I'll give him 12. Jacory Marshall says they thought Bev was slandering him. Let me go on ESPN. I'll get to cuss and expose the media takes. You're funny. But yeah, that's it, huh? Any last questions, boys? Super chats to turn on if you want to drop a dime. All right. He is not better than Hakeem or Wilt, says Raid. I feel you. Michael George says Curry's not better than Hakeem, even with the Finals MVP. Yeah, I feel you, man. Hakeem's just such a special player on both ends of the floor. Somebody was arguing me on Twitter today that Jokic is better. That he thinks Jokic is better than any 90s center. I think that's blasphemy, personally. Hakeem Olajuwon, dude, in his prime, one of the best players of all time. Thoughts about Chet? Needs to put on some pounds but he can shoot the ball. I just think that he could fall into the trap of being another Porzingis. But he's good. He's a really good rim protector, though. Anyways. All right, guys. Peace out, y'all.